goodness sake. You terrible thing. Oh my goodness, I'm a minute late. Yell at me, people.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view? Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair?
We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy and a change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of Lehigh Valley, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Oh my goodness, how could I have done such a thing? How could I have done such a thing? How could I have allowed such a travesty, such a fundamental miscarriage of justice, as to have
What
not...
the hell, man?
What?
You know?
No, I'll tell you what. It's because I don't have a 40-foot screen
Oh.
that I can keep 27 windows open at the same time. You were in the waiting room.
I have to get
Except
you
the Zoom screen was
115
behind about
screen.
3 others. You need to go online and look at the tutorial video, promotional video for the Apple, goodness, what did they call it now?
Is it the goggles?
It's the goggles, but it's not VR goggles. It is Tony Stark's floating screens
Yeah.
in the goggles that you can tap on things and slide them and have just all it. It's remarkable. It's absolutely. It's amazing. It really, like, it's too much fun. Like, it really, probably shouldn't be allowed to have it. But it's, and then again, I'm not allowed to have it because I can't afford it. But that's not the point. The point is, it's amazing. What's really weird is with the screens and the whole nine, it's exactly what she needs. But it's just, I mean, you can't afford it. But it's really, everything's right here. But for you, it looks as if it's a Tony Stark.
It's all. Yeah.
And it automatically detects motion from another person and lowers it so that you can see somebody coming at you. And like, it's just, I wish it's, you know what? I wish I had it. Anyway, John Quia says it's equivalent to standing too close to the TV. Yeah, possibly standing too close to the TV set. Yeah, didn't your parents always tell you that when you were a kid? Don't stand so close to the TV set. It's not good for your eyes. Mine did. It didn't stop me, for whatever that's worth. But maybe that's why I am the way I am. That said, let me start that again. Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere, on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is TKE tonight for the 6th of March, 2025. Winter has returned to the Lehigh Valley. It is windier. Gosh, too bad we don't have wind turbines all over the Lehigh Valley. We'd all have more electricity than we'd know what to do with. But, you know, that might hurt oil, so we can't have that. But that's why we can't have nice things here on Earth. I'm always reminded of when of Carl Sagan being interviewed and pushed, actually prodded a bit about what's so crazy about the idea that aliens have visited Earth, or that they're still here or continue to visit. And his answer was, you mean the aliens who would have figured out the technology to travel light years in an instant to come to this planet to see us slaughtering animals for food, killing each other, digging up old fossils out of the ground to burn for heat? Yeah, if they did visit, they probably took one look and ran back in the opposite direction. And I'm not so sure that he's wrong about that sometimes. Anyway, that said, we are live right now on the Facebook pages of Ghost Claw Productions, TCP Media Group, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, and Hop101.net. We, of course, are also live on our home group Facebook page for all things that surrounds the program, That Other Side of Information, which is also the name of our YouTube channel. We are live there right now. We are also live on the YouTube channel of Ghost Claw Productions Radio. I have also shared the program. It won't air live. I think it just goes as a post, but I did share it. I remembered finally to share it to the LinkedIn, where we traditionally do quite well. Actually, quite a lot of folks seem to take us in via LinkedIn, even though LinkedIn in and of itself is not particularly that type of social media outlet. But, you know, that's fine. We'll take it. Where else am I? Audio of the program, of course, blasts around the globe via 2 internet radio stations. Hop101.net, our name is our web address. You can listen to us on any type of device that can connect to the internet: desktops, laptops, tablets, phones. Bluetooth it to speakers, headphones, earbuds. Bluetooth it in the car, Bluetooth it in the shower. Tell Alexa to play Hop101.net. GCPR, www.gcpr.live, ghostclawproductionsradio.live. That's our website. You can go there and learn everything that you ever wanted to know about the station, and more. GCPR.live. You can find out about all the other shows, the hosts, and so on, all across the station. Programming notes following us on hot101.net. The music returns. We will be with you right to 9 o'clock. On GCPR.live, Superplex Party comes your way. From 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And I believe Nate was able to take you all live through the speech on Tuesday, which is what we'll be talking about. Hope you enjoyed that coverage. He does that really well. And if you missed it, you can go back to the YouTube channel and watch it, but he does that kind of stuff really quite well. Conversations with T. Nathan coming your way from 11 p.m. Eastern. Thomas returns tomorrow morning. Flag on the Play Friday with a fresh, steaming, hot, full pot of the sound of coffee to finish your broadcast work week from 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. All of that live here at GCPR.live. Happy that George is here, even though I tried to hide him in the Zoom. I'm kidding. I didn't try to hide him in the Zoom. I didn't see that he was in. That said, I know it now. You know what? I found it in the chat when you said hello all. I'm like, oh, shoot. I should check that out to see if he's on the Zoom. Let me get right to the guts of the program. Even though it was 2 days ago, I happen to believe that the news story that is still dominating is whatever that was Tuesday night. It was everything that we thought it would be, and potentially more. It was performative. It was showmanship. It was poor public speaking. It was struggled, fighting sort of reading from the teleprompter. This has never been a strength of Trump. The ironic part of it is that reading from a teleprompter is simply reading, as if you would read from paper or from a screen or a label on a food product. It's reading. It's not terribly difficult.
For him it is.
I was going to say, but boy, he makes it look difficult.
It was a political train wreck, that's what it was, but it was like...
It wasn't, and I'll get into why it wasn't. It was full of lies and exaggerations and evil and venom and hate and immense hubris and, I think I said venom already, and grievances and a fresh spray tan. And it was everything that we thought it would be. And it was live television of what former Republicans, now Trump Republicans, have been forced into. Cheering for things that they simply do not support. Cheering for things that will get them voted out of office at home, or at least some of them. The end of Social Security. Massive tax cuts that can't be paid for. Massive slashing the budget massively. Monstrous numbers of layoffs and mass firings. Shuttering of departments. In even some of the deepest red districts. How does a Trump Republican member of Congress go back and say to their constituents, yeah, all your public schools closed. I voted for that. I mean, the two local members of the House right here in Pennsylvania, North Central and Northeast Pennsylvania, campaigned on, both of which, by the way, defeated Democratic incumbents in their races. And they both campaigned on protecting public schools, if not expanding them, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, actually even talked a bit about the benefits of the infrastructure bill, certainly about the reconnection here in the Lehigh Valley of passenger rail, and then voted against all of it. Just lied. Outright lied. I know, not a big shocker. Happens a lot in this former functioning political party known as Republicans. Now Trumps, or Trumpers, Trumpublicans, fascists, really. Liars one, liars all. But there were several times in his speech where Trump put out a particular, what a definition in his world is of a policy initiative that they had to cheer for, that you can tell, you just looked at them on camera, half of them didn't support what he was talking about, but they had no choice. Peer pressure. Had to go along with the crowd. It was everything that we thought it would be, and more. It is a gift, in quotes, that we'll keep on giving. I go back to an article that I posted 2 days ago from the BBC, written by Lucy Gilder, Jake Horton, and Ben Chu, fact-checking Trump's address to Congress. Now, for the red hats out there, for the people who have worn their red hat for a decade now, and it's out now kind of molded to the skin, I intentionally chose a fact-checking article from outside the United States. New York Times did a fact-checking article. The Washington Post somehow still did a fact-checking article, even though Bezos appears to be creeping in day after day, clamping down on what can and cannot be reported by the Washington Post. I feared his purchase of the Washington Post when he first did it. And when he did it, he said, I am not going to touch them. I'm going to help them digitize. I'm going to help them monetize their online presence. But the reporting is going to be left to the reporters. And he did that for a good number of years. But now that he's gone full fascist, just like Zuckerberg and Musk, the Mercers, Jeffrey Yass, the Koch network, full-blown, full-out fascism now. He's clamping down on his own newspaper about what they can report, what they can write about, what they cannot write about. It is becoming Fox News on paper. Randall mentions the Trump Republicans aren't going to have town hall meetings. Well, yeah, because you can't, because they fear the people they represent. Actually, they don't represent the people they represent. They represent whatever pocket billionaire happened to put them in Congress. Why face the people when you don't have to? So many of these Trump Republican House seats are so gerrymandered, they never have to have a town hall. They don't have to answer to anything other than the billionaires that own them. It actually makes the job quite simple when you think about it. All on the promise that they will be cut in. They will get a chunk, or they will get a piece of the pie. They'll be rich just like the people that own them. And will they become rich? Yeah. They're never going to be billionaires. Musk is never going to let somebody get as rich as him. But will they get rich enough to live out their lives when they're done being owned in Congress? Yeah, they'll do quite well. Mitch McConnell's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. The average net worth of a member of the House, or not just the House, I should say. The average, let me try to do grammar. Let me try say English. That'll be great. George got that joke. Jeez, I'm not doing well. Can you tell there's health problems, folks? Let me try this again. The average net worth of a member of Congress, that's both chambers, is over $1 million. That might not seem like a lot in modern times. Honestly, if you were worth $1 million and you lived in Chicago, New York City, San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, well, maybe not Atlanta, increasingly Phoenix or Las Vegas, San Diego, Miami, it's not a lot of money. Compared to 99% of the population, it is. Now, some of the folks were millionaires when they got to Congress. And many of them became millionaires when they got to Congress. And no wonder they want to keep going back, because the wealth just grows. And if you're in a deep red gerrymandered district, you never need to talk to your constituents. They're just cannon fodder for you. They're the china that you roll out at a holiday. You need them to show up once a year, and you just need one more vote than the competition. And then you ignore them for 2 more years, or for 6 more years. The little bit of hope that I have to restore this country comes in the fact that a leaked memo shows that the Trump administration wants to fire 80,000 employees of the Veterans Administration. 80,000. 80,000. 80,000 employees of the Veterans Administration. So to all the veterans out there who supported Trump because he was going to make us tough, how's that going to work out for you? How's that going to go? And this is where I've talked about before, the mixed, or I shouldn't say mixed, the varied messaging that we on the left, the people who knew better, need to use. A carrot for some, a big fracking stick over the skull for others. Many of you supported this, vets, because Trump's tough. Can't vote for a woman. He's a real man. Because I guess real men rape multiple women, marry even more, and have multiple children with many of them, and abort even more. I guess that makes you manly. I mean, even before this, when he called you all suckers and fools for serving in the military in the first damn place, many of you voted for him. And now he's going to strip everything from you. The cuts to Medicaid, to SNAP, to the CHIPS program. I believe it's 1 of every 6 people who are on government assistance of that sort serve in the military. You don't make enough money in the military, you need even more assistance to keep your family fed. But you voted for it. So starve. Sometimes you only learn through failure. Sometimes you do have to put your hand on the hot burner to realize how much it burns. But I'm getting off on a sidetrack. That said, fact checking. I'm going to try to go through this. It's a long, bloody article. But I very intentionally picked a fact checking article from outside the United States. They listed 6 big points that they fact checked. Again, this is 2 days old. It's from the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Even though they're not like a real corporation, I think they work. I think as long as they break even, and they're funded by the British government under a legal mandate to be unbiased. By the way, Trump said he inherited an economic catastrophe from Biden. This is misleading. Shocker. Shocker. Hope everybody's sitting down. Glad George is sitting down so he didn't get lightheaded and pass out. This is misleading. The U.S. economy was growing at an annual rate of 2.3% in the final quarter of 2024 under the Biden administration. It expanded 2.8% over 2024 as a whole, according to official U.S. statistics. The International Monetary Fund estimates that the U.S. growth rate in 2024 was even faster than any other nation in the G7. Trump complained about the worst inflation in 48 years, perhaps even in the history of our country. Wrong. Worst in 48 years? Actually not wrong. But inflation under Biden peaked at 9.1% in June 2022, the highest level since 1981. There's your 40 years. So not quite back as far as Trump claimed. The 2022 peak was in the context of high inflation all around the world in the wake of the COVID pandemic. The inflation rate had dropped to 3% by the time Trump took office. It has gone up again, by the way. So there's a big one right there. Did Biden let egg prices get out of control? Remember egg prices? Remember those? Remember how he was going to solve those? They're up 41%, I think it is, by the way. Trump went to blame Biden for egg prices, claiming he let the price of eggs get out of control. Prices are high. But this has been linked to bird flu. So what would you do when you wanted to bring down the price of eggs because of bird flu? Should probably fire everyone at the FDA and the CDC who was in charge or had the responsibility of controlling bird flu. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? All because the apartheidist billionaire Elon Musk doesn't want to pay taxes. You can die of bird flu. That's perfectly fine. I can die of it. George can die of it. Everyone at 101, everyone at GC. We can all die of bird flu. Just as long as Musk is okay. The rest of us are cannon fodder. The rest of us are wadding in a single shot Revolutionary War musket. We are the mud in between the treads of the tires. We're nothing to these people other than labor. Slave labor at that, if they have their way. We could all die of bird flu. That's perfectly fine. Just as long as Musk doesn't. So if you really gave a shite about the price of eggs and scary big words here, stay with me. A lot of sarcasm in tonight's program. Stay with me. Big science-y words here. If you really cared about lowering the price of eggs, and all of the science, medicine, and data tells you that it's bird flu that is primarily, not exclusively to be fair, but primarily driving the rise in prices, makes perfect sense that you would fire everyone that has anything to do with eradicating bird flu. For God's sake, how dumb have we become? All of us are not dumb. But how did enough of the voting public get this stupid as to do this to our country again? The big warning that came from the Democratic Party, Democratic candidates, progressive independent expenditure groups, former office holders, former members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, former members of government throughout the various departments, going back into Reagan and Nixon. The big warning was, we got through 4 years of Trump, we don't know if we can get through another 4 years. This is exactly what they were talking about. Can we make it through another 4 years of this? Dear God, people, today's the 6th. We're 7 weeks in to a 4-year term. Democracy's already dead. What's next? Oil wells in Yellowstone? More nuclear power plants on fault lines? The Cuyahoga River catching on fire again? What's left? Or what's next? Anyway, what can I see? As part of this article, again, under the price of eggs, the Trump administration recently fired a number of USDA officials who worked on the government's response to bird flu as a part of a quote-unquote cost-cutting measure by Musk. You shouldn't even call it Doge anymore. It's Trump Republicans. It's fascists. It's Musk. The idea that this department has any sense of legitimacy is simply false. It is not a governmental agency. It is not a governmental department. It was not created by an act of Congress. Its very existence is unconstitutional and illegal. And this is another one of those very small places where the media fails us. On the surface, reading an article and it mentions Dodgy, because I shouldn't even call it Doge, Dodgy, and mentions it as if it's normal. This is not normal. Fascism is not normal. It is not the natural state of things. It's easier to slip into totalitarianism than it is to maintain democracy. We finally learned that because we don't have democracy anymore in this country. It took us 10 years to slip into fascism. We thought Nixon was a fascist. We thought Reagan was a fascist. We sure as hell thought George W. Bush was one. And he was damn close to one. Now you all really know what it means and what it is. Because now we have it. Has Dodgy found hundreds of billions of fraud? No evidence has been provided for this figure. reports the BBC. On its official website, Dodgy states that it has saved an estimated $105 billion from fraud detection, contract and grant cancellations, real estate lease terminations, asset sales. I'd love to know what the federal government's selling off and to whom they are selling it. Notice we haven't heard much about that. Workforce reductions, programmatic changes, and regulatory savings. Remember, regulations are protections. Seatbelts were a regulation. Seatbelts. Ventilation in factories. Regulations that did not allow owners of sweatshops to chain the doors shut. Those are regulations. Regulations that made women's sports equal to men's. These are protections. These are regulations. Regulations are protections. The figure cannot be independently verified. Dodgy has only published quote-unquote receipts for contract and grant real estate cancellations. They add up to $18.6 billion. The White House cannot identify the remaining $86 billion that Musk is claiming. And by the way, Dodgy is not about waste, fraud, and abuse. Not even a little. It's about cutting everything they can possibly find to justify tens of trillions of dollars in tax cuts. I know that when we talk about the tax cuts in the mainstream media, they talk about 4.5 trillion. But it's over 10 years. Inflation will continue to rise. The real dollar costs of this, conservatively, small c, conservatively, 6 to 8 trillion. Steve Ratner is the economic analyst on Morning Joe. Interesting chart this morning. I know some of you can't stand Morning Joe. I get it. Steve Ratner can be really dry to listen to. You really, really have to stick with it. But his information is factual. It is studied and researched. The first Trump tax cuts in 2017 that they want to extend and make permanent to the poorest 20% of Americans. You know how much money that meant to them every single year? I want to give it a second here, see if anyone in the chat wants to take a guess. Do you know how much money it actually meant to the poorest 20% of Americans? This would be the 2017 Trump, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell tax cuts. How much money per year that meant to the poorest 10%? Or 20%, sorry. To the poorest 20%? Nobody's taking a guess. $80. $80. 80. Less than $10 a month. To the middle, I believe it was 60%. It meant $800 a month. I'd gladly take $800 if somebody handed it to me in an envelope. Do you know what those tax cuts meant to the top 1%? $250,000. And that's the 2017 cuts. So not only do we want to make those permanent, we want to pile another $4.5 trillion on top of that. Because damn it, the apartheidist fascist Musk doesn't have enough money. he might go broke. 500 billion's hardly enough to get around these days. Oh, sorry, he lost 90 billion on Tesla. 400 billion is hardly enough to get by. Was February the lowest ever month for border crossings? It's actually true. That one's actually true. He scared the crap out of everybody. They're not coming. Deportations, however, are lower now than they were at the end of the Biden administration. Crossings, they are at a new low. That's true. Here you go, BBC, telling you the truth. When Trump said border crossings were at a new low, he's telling you the truth. I'm surprised he didn't burst into flame. It's a rare thing. The flip side of that, or the additional facts that come from that, are deportations. Remember, Trump said he was going to deport 40 million people. Deportations are lower now than they were at the end of the Biden administration. Trump 2.0 is not terribly different than Trump 1.0. The difference is now they have a playbook, and now they know how government works. They didn't know poop about poop the first time they got in. They do now. They have Project 2025. And that's what you're seeing every single day, is the implementation of Project 2025. Trump is still being Trump. Lying, orange, fat, angry, hateful, racist, anti-Semitic. He's all of these things. Everything that he was 8 years ago. Except now he has a playbook. And plenty of people to implement it. It's actually kind of surprising he hasn't fired a cabinet official yet. I think at this point in his first term he'd already sacked somebody. Oh, well, that's true. We did fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff because, after all, he was black. Or is black. And replaced him with a retired white lieutenant general who actually is not in the same military scale as the man who was fired. He's below him in rank. So some of the things still the same. Very much. Except now they have a playbook. Oh, and a private army. These stories are not well reported, and this is not something that I was going to get into tonight. Use the search engine of your choice. I will continue to recommend DuckDuckGo to you, because they do not trace your search history. I know we've turned Google into a verb, and it flows out of the mouth really easy. It's just easy to say Google it. You choose a search engine. It doesn't have to be Google. I continue to highly recommend DuckDuckGo. Although, if I were the people that ran DuckDuckGo, I don't know what the hell they named it that for, but whatever. Just have an internet search of Proud Boys at the Capitol. Enrique Tarrio's visited the Capitol already since he got released, since he got pardoned by Trump. A whole host of them have been up there. Tarrio literally walked up to some of the Capitol Police that he led the beating of on January 6th and said, "You people are traitors." Him, the one who was helping to overthrow the government. Have a look at those. Trump has a private army now. Why do you think he pardoned them all? A, he was hoping to absolve himself. If nobody was in jail for an insurrection that he led, how could there have been an insurrection? It's like a tree falling in the woods. he also made these people his private army. The Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, they're all his private army now. If he were to order them to attack a city, they'd do it. If he ordered them to shoot into a crowd of progressive protesters, they'd do it. And he'd pardon them again. Let me see. Did 21 million migrants enter the U.S. under Biden? Continuing with illegal migration, Trump claimed, quote, over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. There is no evidence for a figure this high. Encounters with migrants at the borders, a measure of illegal migration, reached 10 million under Biden, but this does not mean this many people stayed in the U.S. It is impossible to know exactly how many illegal immigrants have come to the U.S. As many will have evaded law enforcement or agencies, but several estimates put the number at around half of what Trump stated. Here is a little place where I differ from most Democrats. If you enter, we have laws and procedures and processes about how you can enter this country from another country. Not just Central and South America, but everywhere. We have laws. If you break them, then yes, you've entered the country illegally. Those very same laws, by the way, treat entering this country illegally as a misdemeanor. It is nothing more serious in American law than a parking ticket, or a noise violation, or jaywalking, or littering. These people are not illegal people. They are seeking a better life. It takes a hell of a lot of guts to leave, pick a country, Guatemala, where your family literally goes back to before the Spanish conquistadors, and to pick up your family and walk on foot to enter the United States in the hope of something better. But even with all that, you can still enter the country, quote unquote, illegally. But again, U.S. law treats it no different than a parking ticket. Most people are fined and then they stay, especially if they haven't committed any crimes. If you have committed a crime, good, we can send you out. Most level-headed people can agree with that. But to demonize these people because you need a bright, shiny object while the billionaires have their hands in your pocket is an entirely different thing. And let's not forget, it was Reagan who oversaw, by his own legislative suggestion, by the way. It was Reagan that oversaw the largest amnesty in the history of the country. Because he wanted to break labor unions and corporations, wanted cheap labor. Has the U.S. spent $350 billion on Ukraine? On U.S. aid to Ukraine, Trump claimed, quote, we've spent perhaps, this is the very subtle thing that he does. He'll say, I didn't lie. I thought it was. I was told it was. People say it was. Quote, we've spent perhaps $350 billion, and they, meaning Europe, have spent $100 billion. What a difference that is. Yes, it's called math, you idiot. 350 minus 100 is 250. It's math. It's pretty bloody simple. It's math I learned in elementary school. You put 10 jelly beans on the desk, you eat 5 of them, how many do you have left? It's called math. BBC Verify is unable to find any evidence for Trump's $350 billion claim. And some figures suggest Europe has spent more as a whole when all aid to Ukraine is included. The fact is they have spent more. Steve Ratner actually had a chart for that this morning. The United States has spent roughly, because believe it or not, I have seen varying estimates, between $116 and $121 billion in aid to Ukraine. European Union has spent, I believe it's about $138 billion. So they have spent more. And you might say to yourself, well, we're one country and they're dozens. Fair? But each of those countries has so much more smaller GDPs, they have smaller populations, they have smaller military budgets. Not every country on earth spends $1.5 trillion on the military every single year. Europe knows it's next. Putin would gladly sweep across the continent just like Hitler, if he can. Quite frankly, I don't think he has enough arms, and he doesn't have the men to do it. Well, they have women in their armed forces too. They don't have the population to occupy all of Europe. And as their failure in Ukraine has shown, Putin thought he was going to take Ukraine in a week. He thought it would be a week. We're over 3 years in. They're winning the war, but they've also lost tens of thousands of soldiers. They had to get soldiers from North Korea. And those soldiers are getting slaughtered. He can't roll across Europe. He'd love to do it. He can also defeat them from within, the same way he's defeated this country. He's got a dictator in Hungary. He has a fascist in Italy. The fascist party that was direct heir of the Nazi parties had historic gains in the German elections. And even though they didn't get a majority, the right-wing party did take over. Even they aren't as far as the AFB that Musk was supporting. But they're still pretty darn right. And now they're in charge. He almost got Marine Le Pen elected in France. Close. I think that's the end of the article. But you get the point. Speech was everything that we thought it was. And more. And more. Let me get this article really quick. We got a couple minutes. This is from CNN. It was published today around 1 p.m. It is written by Brianna K. I don't know if it's Keeler, K-E-I-L-A-R. Might be Keeler. I really, really hate mispronouncing people's names. I think it's disrespectful, and I don't mean to do that. I hope I'm not misspelling or mispronouncing her name. If I am, my apologies to Miss Keeler. Not that she's listening, but you get my point. It's disrespectful. I hate when I do it. So again, this is from CNN. When the Department of Government Efficiency, again, we're referring to dodgy like it's actually legal, like it's somehow normal. When Musk swings an axe, it's bound to hit a veteran who voted for President Trump. Veterans make up 30% of the federal workforce, and more than 60% of veterans said Trump was their candidate, according to a Pew Research survey conducted 2 months before the 2024 election. One veteran in Kansas who voted for Trump describes terminations that have upended the lives of many employees in his agency as a sudden military drawdown poorly executed. He still supports Trump and shrinking the federal government, but not how the administration is going about it. So far, the Trump administration has based firings mostly on whether an employee is probationary, a status confirmed on new federal employees, but also some who have been recently promoted or those who have been moved between jobs even within the same agency. And again, we had a leaked letter last night, a leaked internal memo. One thing that seems to be continuing under Trump 2.0 that arguably helped spare the country from so many more things in Trump 1.0 was the constant leaking from within his administration. People who knew better, people who did not support what he was doing, people who don't support him, period, but are career federal civil servants. Their leaks helped save this country 4 years ago, or 8 years ago. Those leaks seem to be continuing. And thank goodness for them. I'm not sure what we would not know were it not for those leaks. But a memo was leaked last night that claims Musk and Trump want to fire 80,000 employees of the Veterans Administration. So for those 60% of veterans who voted for this, congratulations. You've damned all your fellow veterans. 80,000 is the end of the VA medical program. That's it. It'll be the end of those hospitals. They'll either be privatized, in which case costs will rise at least 100%, probably more. Because remember, private insurance takes 40% right off the top. You hand them $10, they stick $4 in their pocket, and maybe give you the remaining $6 towards your coverage. More times than not, they try to tell you how you don't deserve those $6 back. Oh, by the way, the $6 that you gave us that we didn't already stick in our pockets that we're supposed to spend on your coverage and your care and your ability to see a doctor? No.